Welcome to Illuminating Hope, a podcast of Hope House. In this series, Advocating Justice, the Legal Battle, we dive into the legal battles that shape the fight for domestic violence survivors. In each episode, we bring you powerful conversations with the legal teams, court advocates, and change makers working tirelessly to bring justice, protection, and hope to survivors of domestic violence. From the courthouse to policy changes, from survivors' rights to legal strategies, we uncover the critical role the justice system plays in breaking cycles of abuse. Whether you are a survivor, advocate, or someone passionate about justice, this podcast series will empower and inform you. Justice isn't just about the law. It's about giving survivors a voice, protection, and a future. Serena and Randa, welcome to the Illuminating Hope podcast. We're glad you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the Guardian program. Hope House has a Guardian program, and I would love for either one of you to jump in and share what the Guardian program is, but also share the history behind the Guardian program.
The history of the Guardian program started in around 2001-2002, where a female was doing an exchange with her abuser in a McDonald's parking lot, and he had shot her. And Eileen, our chief operating officer, she was a court advocate at the time, she saw a need for something like that, and so we started the Guardian program, which is a supervised visitation and monitored exchange program for victims of domestic violence and stalking and sexual assault in 2002.
When we first started it, we were in the basement. Do you remember that, Randa?
That was right before me.
Right before you came
me.
right after that. So we were in this building that was donated to us from the school district that had given us that. And we were taking what was available to us to get this program started. And in addition to what was happening in the community, we were also hearing from our clients, our outreach clients, how dangerous it was when they were trying to do these exchanges. And they really were feeling very helpless because they didn't know what to do, because if they participated in it, then they were subjected to further abuse. But if they didn't, then they were being held accountable in court, and then it was being held against them. So it was really a rough time for people back then.
So it's a monitored child exchange. Are they court-ordered exchanges? Can you choose to do it this way instead of at a McDonald's or a Quick Trip? Tell us a little bit about the program, Randa.
The monitored exchanges generally are court-ordered. The majority of the clients that we serve are coming through family court. So you have, and also order of protection court, and then you have divorce and custody, paternity. There obviously has to be abuse and domestic violence in the history for us to serve those clients. Generally, they are being ordered through the courts. There are cases where they agree. That doesn't happen very often. We don't have too many abusers that say, yeah, absolutely, I want to go and follow those rules, even though I didn't follow the law to begin with.
Right.
So that doesn't happen too often, but we are available to serve those clients as well. We do have security that's provided through police department that's there to check everyone that comes into the program, and then just provide that added support in case there's any incidents.
Tell me what a supervised exchange or supervised visit looks like.
So they're a little bit different. So a supervised visitation, both parties in a supervised visitation and a monitored exchange, they arrive 15 minutes early, and then they park in different parking lots. So the non-custodial parent, who is the visiting parent, parks in our west parking lot, and then they arrive 15 minutes before. So hypothetically, if their visit starts at 5:30, they'll arrive at 5:15. They'll come in through our entrance, and then the officer that is on duty will search their belongings and search them. They have to walk through a metal detector, and they have to lock up any kind of phones. We don't allow any phones or recording devices into our visits. They'll come in, they'll get their things searched, and then they'll go back to their visitation room and wait. So when the child arrives, the custodial parent parks in the east parking lot, brings the child. We walk the child in. We check in with them beforehand, making sure that they're ready to go. They'll grab a movie, maybe grab a snack, grab some games, and then they'll go back, have their visit. And that's usually an hour to 2 hours in length. Most of them are an hour. Now the exchanges, whenever they come in, they just go and sit with the non-custodial parent in our waiting area, or if we have a visitation room available, they'll go wait in there. They can play while they wait because they do have to wait 20 minutes so the custodial parent can leave. And that is forced safety purposes.
Can you talk about that? What safety reasons would be there that they would have to wait?
We've seen a lot of issues in the past where stalking was a big issue, or they'd follow them home. So we have that 20-minute waiting period. So the custodial parent, as you know, pretty much in Kansas City, you can get anywhere in 20 minutes. We have that so they can kind of get out of the area. And it is part of our agreement that they leave immediately once the child has been exchanged, or at the end of the visit when the child has gotten in the car, they've loaded them up, they just leave immediately. And that's for safety purposes, because we want to make sure that they're not being followed home, especially if they've moved, and we don't want the abuser to be able to find the new home or anything like that. We're there to essentially interrupt. So
Right, and as a matter of fact, when Serena, and we also have a coordinator, whenever they're ordered into the program or they agree to come into the program, there is an intake process. So they do come to the program beforehand. They meet with Serena, they meet with the coordinator, they're given a tour, there's a conversation that's had, they go over the agreement and the rules. Oftentimes when they come to that first visitation or that first exchange, they still have that expectation that they're going to see that custodial parent. And so it's quite a surprise to them, oftentimes, even though you remind them repeatedly, there's going to be no contact. There's going to be no contact. You're not going to see them. You have to remind them even more. And so they are still looking for that opportunity, and they think that they're going to get it at the Guardian program, and they do not get that at the Guardian program. So,
do you think that some of the offenders use their children as tools and not to really build that meaningful relationship, or take the opportunity to build that meaningful relationship, so when they don't see the ex-spouse or the survivor, there's maybe a drop-off rate?
yes.
100%.
Yes.
We have part of our services agreement that they can't speak negatively about the custodial parent. They can't ask about their whereabouts or activities. Now they can talk about the custodial parent, but it can't be in a negative light. So we are really there, and our supervisors in the visit who are observing the visit, they are there to stop and make sure the visit is safe and that everyone in there is safe. And that includes interrupting any kind of conversations that may be information seeking. So we really do take that into consideration. We check in with the family members. If there's a bunch of kids in there, we want to remind them, like, hey, don't talk about like where you live, or if they want to have difficult conversations, usually that's the teenagers, but if they want to have difficult conversations, we set the expectation that they may be limited in what they can say, because we do have those rules where they can't talk about any kind of adult topics, and that is up to us what an adult topic is, because you may be able to talk about one thing with your child, but then it's not age appropriate for a 5-year-old. So we have to step in and make sure that everyone's okay during those conversations, and making sure that there's no information seeking. They can ask about school. They can say, hey, how's school going, buddy? But we don't want them to be like, hey, who's your 3rd grade teacher? You go to XYZ Elementary?
I think one of the things that when talking about this program that people have a hard time understanding is what's the motivation of someone to participate or also not to participate. Most of our families are court ordered, and that is due to something's happened in that relationship with those children, so those children are considered to be not safe if they're having a supervised visit. Would you say that, I think kind of back to what Tina was asking too, that those families that are coming in that were really having the expectation that they were going to get to see the custodial parent, they would get to continue their behavior as it was, and when they learn that they're not going to be able to do that, do they then focus on the kids and move into let's try to build a relationship with our kids? Or is it more still just, I wanted to see the custodial parent? I think because we do hope that families are repairing and rebuilding their relationships. That's really the ultimate goal of this program. Well, it's to provide safety, first of all. But it would be wonderful if those kids could be able to repair that relationship. How much do we see of that versus that they're disappointed they don't get to see the custodial parent, and so then they kind of just fade away?
I don't know that I have a good number. What I can say is generally those that are looking for opportunities, trying to seek out the custodial parent, we put those barriers in place where they can't, and they will drop out pretty quickly. We do have some that once they realize it's not going to happen, do continue with those visits and try to focus on the child. But also we have that other group also that says, oh, okay, and then tries to focus on the child, but then tries to seek information through the supervised visits. So it's a mix of several. Generally, we know within the first, I would say 2 to 3 visits if someone's going to drop off, just simply because they have a really, really difficult time following those rules of not being able to leave before the 20 minutes, and because that was their way to get to that custodial parent. So I don't have a good number, but I would say it goes several different ways.
Have either one of you had any bad experiences with an offender?
100%. Not like 100%, like I've 100% of the offenders I've had problems with. I do see that they tend to act a little bit better in a controlled environment, and that's what we are. There is a police officer on site at all times. Whenever they see that police officer, I think they kind of keep themselves in line. But I have had a lot of experiences with name calling, derogatory remarks, intimidation, where they try to use it on me, or the officers even. They try to intimidate because they can't intimidate the victim anymore, or the survivor. They'll try to do it on us. And I think it does take a special person to work at the Guardian program and kind of stand up and make sure that like you're enforcing the rules and making sure that everyone is following the rules and everyone's treated fairly. And that's what our program is we treat everyone fairly. And so there's consequences to actions. So if you're going to sit there and call me nasty names, there's going to be a conversation that's going to be had. We have the right to terminate the visits if they are acting up, or we can suspend them from the program. It just depends. It all gets funneled through Randa, and then if further steps need to be taken, then it kind of goes up from there.
And the court would get involved from there, is that correct, Randa? Or how does it escalate?
That's a great question. So the court is separate from the Guardian program. So although they're being court ordered in, they still have to follow our rules and our policies and procedures, which is difficult because I think it's hard whenever we have a lot of participants, even now, even participants that have been in the program for years that are like, you're connected to the court. The court has, a say over you. And that's not how that works. The court really just establishes that schedule, but they still have to follow what we lay down. I do want to say too that as far as experience with custodials or participants that have been incredibly difficult or just don't want to follow the guidelines, that Eileen says all the time, our chief operating officer, is they were not ordered into the program because they're picking daisies. We know that. We don't, it's something that Serena and I repeat all the time. We know that if they were following the law to begin with and not hitting people, then we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. So our expectation is they're not going to come into the program happy. But we have to learn how to respond to that and set that tone. And that's something that Serena and the coordinator are really good at, is about, I know you don't want to be here, and that's okay, but let's do this. Let's put the focus on the kiddo. So even if they're trying to put that focus back on the custodial parent, they're still trying to, Serena and the coordinator are trying to shift their focus back to that child. What can we do to support you during your visits? How can we help you with that? What can we do? How about a game? Is this something? And really try to support them so that they can have a good, healthy visit.
I think that's what's so important to remember, is that people being ordered into this program are being ordered for a reason, that they cannot see their kid. For the ones getting the visits, now the supervised exchange would be different, but they're not allowed to see their kids without supervision. So there has been something or some, multiple things that have happened to have a judge say, you're not safe to be around your children without somebody supervising that. So we don't have the expectation that these people are coming in happy and ready to go. And we also know that people who are abusive are controlling. Domestic violence is about power and control.
That's right.
So not only has the power and control been taken away from that relationship, it's also now a third party's coming in and saying you don't get to have power and control over the child or over us. We're not going to allow that either. And I think that is really difficult for an abuser. So I think that having that expectation that there needs to be latitude of, okay, we're going to try to figure out what's the best way to proceed with you, and you figure it out and whether or not this is going to work for you or not.
Right.
So if somebody comes in for, let's do the visit, we have people who monitor those visits. So talk about who those people are and what a visit, say that somebody's coming in to see they have 2 kids and they're going to be there for an hour. What does that look like?
So the kids come in and the supervisor will usually be up there to get the kids from us, so in our little lobby area, and then they'll take them back there. It's really up to the visiting parent to decide how the visit goes and if they want to play games or if they want to sit there and chat. A lot of people bring dinner. So what the supervisor is doing is just observing what is going on. Most of them are licensed clinical therapists or social workers, or they have experience in domestic violence, and so they know the effects of post-separation violence, and so they're really looking for those cues that some of them may have. But really they're there to observe and just to engage whenever the visiting parent is, I don't want to say violating the rules, but they need to be redirected. If they start talking about court, we're there to stop that. And that's all documented. So they do take notes during the visit. It's documented when they arrive, who they arrive with. And we try to keep the same families with the same supervisor because they tend to get more comfortable. And because it's really uncomfortable when someone is sitting in there with you. At least that's what the feedback. They're like, well, this is awkward. Someone's babysitting me.
Right.
But they're in there for a reason. So they're back there making sure that the kid is safe, that they're safe as well. Because sometimes those visits can be really hard if they haven't seen the kids in a while. And so they're there just to trying to give them guidance and make sure that they're not providing any type of therapeutic support, but they're making sure that everyone is having a good time in there.
Can we go back to one of the things that you said? You were talking about difficult conversations and that a child, that we see it, especially with teenagers, wanting to have one of those conversations. Is that allowed? So let's just say it's just a teenager in the room. There's no younger children. Would that child be allowed to confront or to have this conversation with their non-custodial parent?
Yes. We like to remind them that this is their safe place, that they are safe here, and if they need to have a difficult conversation, we always remind them, like, hey, you can have this difficult conversation, but your parent may be a little limited on how they can respond, and you may not get the answer that you want.
Well, and also, too, something that we forgot to mention earlier during the intake, something that we remind all children of all ages, and I know we're talking specifically about a teenager right now, but all children of all ages that come to the program, we work with them when we do the tour and we do the intake with them so that they understand too that maybe it's a safe word, maybe it's they asked to go to the bathroom. If they need to leave that conversation or that visit at that time for whatever reason that may be, they can do so, and we want to be able to provide that support too. So that's something that is always worked with every child, no matter what age they are.
Because I know that when you have had these experiences that these kids have had, that depending on where they are in their process, if they've been getting therapy or they've had a chance to be able to start to work through some stuff, that there would most likely be an opportunity or a desire to have some conversation or confrontation around things that had happened and either put closure to it or move forward with it. And I know that we work with some families for years, so I think that that rapport could be built up and that they would be able to hopefully be able to do it in a way that was safe for them and that it would be received by that non-custodial parent as well.
Yeah, and we definitely work on making sure that we have relationships with the children as well, because we're ultimately there for the kid. A lot of the older like the teenagers or like the preteens, we're able to build that relationship with them because we don't force children to participate in the visits because it could re-traumatize them. So we talk with them and ask them, like, hey, are you ready? And if they say no, we're asking more questions, like, how can we help? Do you want me to go back there with you? What would make it easier? And then giving them that autonomy back, because that was really taken away from them because of their parent that causes harm. And so we really want to make sure that we are taking care of the children and making sure that they feel comfortable saying, like, I don't want to do this today. I've been going to therapy and I want to talk about things, but they're just not listening. And so I can go in there and say, hey, listen, they don't want to do the visit today. And then they have to be okay with that. We don't force children. I can't make anyone participate in my program. So at the end of the day, it is a voluntary program. I can't compel anyone to come. And that includes the children, because we have to make sure that everyone is safe. That's what we're there for. Right. So I just want to make sure that the kids are safe and they feel comfortable coming to me, because I've had a lot of those preteens or like young teenagers come to me.
When we first started this program, we really didn't think it was for the kids. We thought it was for the custodial parent. We were doing that. We were hearing that from our clients who were the custodial parents and saying, this isn't safe. I don't know how to do this. So we really thought this was just to keep them safe.
Right.
But after years of doing this program, really realizing this really is for the kids. It really is about them and making the environment there for a relationship if all parties desire that.
Right, and that's another thing too, to I don't mean to jump ahead or anything, but one that we also have to consider and we really think about too is we have children that are coming to the program with special needs. So it's not only those difficult conversations that they're having, but making sure that we're providing the environment that they need that's going to be a calming environment, that's not going to overwhelm them or stimulate. We have times where children, maybe the last time they saw the non-custodial is when they were being taken away by the police. So then we have, that's why our police officers that are providing that security are building relationships with those children too, because maybe they look at them like, as you took my parent away from me last time I saw you. Or maybe it was the child experienced and watched that incident occur, and that's the last time they saw the non-custodial parent. So they're being reintroduced into that relationship. They haven't seen that non-custodial in a while. And so maybe they can only do 5 minutes, and that's okay. So we start out at 5 minutes, and then we end up doing 30 minutes, and then we end up doing an hour. And those things grow over time too. So it's really at their pace and their needs, and that's what's really important to remember about the Guardian program.
I cannot imagine how many lives have been saved because of the Guardian program. I know we could never know the stats, but because we know the stats of post-separation abuse and homicide, I know this program has just saved so many lives of both the survivors and their children. It's an amazing program. You had talked about clients being in the program for many, many, many years. How does one progress out of the program, or maybe they wouldn't need supervised visits? How does that look?
Generally, they would have to go back to court, or it would be an agreement between both parties if there's a cessation of violence. We see that a lot, but most of the time it's court. We don't have a graduation date from the Guardian program. We had a kid that was in the Guardian program from 18 months, and then she aged out at 18 years, and that was just this year.
Wow.
So
that was a hard let go, I'm sure.
Yeah, we didn't get to say goodbye either. So that's also the hardest part, is like you see these kids every week, and then you don't get to say goodbye to them because build that relationship with them, and then you're like, oh, they don't need us anymore, or they found alternate arrangements. But usually it's done in the court. They say like, okay, you've completed this, so you can go on to this next step. But if you can't complete this next step, you're going to go right back to where you started. So it's really up to how they behave in our program, but we are not used solely for those decisions that are made. Usually there's much more going on in their situation than just the Guardian program. A lot of them are in stepped programs, like you have to complete this step and then you move up to step 2 and then step 3. But a lot of the time it's usually either the visiting parent just stops coming, or they find alternate arrangements. The court order has changed.
Yeah, and I also want to say too, it's important to know that we do not monitor progress. That is not our role. Our role is to observe visits and provide a safe environment that's fair and consistent for all participants. So it's really important. I think that that's really difficult too for the court system sometimes too, because they're like, well, how do they do? How are they doing? And we don't offer opinions. We just offer, this is what we observed, this is what we experienced, and we move forward. That's important to note as well.
So it's possible that someone would come in for supervised visits and then moved into monitor exchanged.
Yeah, we've had clients move from supervised visits to monitored exchanges, and then they move to doing exchanges out in the community. Like they try it. They'll do like one exchange out in the community and then come back to us just to have documentation purposes, I assume. I don't know what's in the mind of an attorney, but we've had people who have gone up to that and then they kind of like, they're like, oh, we'll do them at Quick Trip, but we safety plan if they're going to be doing them out in the community. We safety plan with the survivor, saying, do it here, do it in a certain space of the Quick Trip parking lot. The cameras are here. They're always by the front door. And so we really have to safety plan with them and talk about like how to do the exchange. Like if the child is old enough to get out of the car, there's no reason that the survivor needs to get out of the car. You park at different ends. If you need to, take somebody with you, parent or a grandparent, friend even, and just make sure that you're focusing on the child and making sure like if they're doing anything that you're documenting it.
And another thing that we do is a piece of that safety plan as well, and something that is becoming more and more popular is that technology. And so whenever we're having when they're doing outside exchanges, which we obviously have no control over, a piece of that safety plan is we really try to encourage clients, if you have a small child, let's not exchange diaper bags. The reason for that is you can slip in a GPS. Let's not exchange, can we get you a car seat? Do we have a car seat available? We want to minimize any type of exchange other than the child with that that non-custodial just because those chances of those GPS monitoring systems and all that wonderful technology that I am too old to know all about and give you every detail. But we want to avoid that and minimize those opportunities for that non-custodial to do that. And we're just seeing it more and more. I mean, technology is getting smaller and smarter, and that's something that we check for in the Guardian program, and our officers are really good about locating as well.
I think that's what's so sad is that even though we're in this environment where we're trying to provide this opportunity for relationship building, we still have to be on guard for controlling techniques like that.
Try to think of everything, right?
Right.
It's so
hard.
hard.
It's
It
hard
is
to
hard.
stay. And technology changes so rapidly.
So
fast.
rapidly.
That it is hard to keep up with all of the different ways that you can track someone or you can monitor where they are and not even know that you're being monitored. Have no way of knowing that.
Right. I mean, when I started advocacy, I had a resource book, a binder, and you just flip through the binder, and now it's pointless to even print out resources because they change so rapidly, and it's the same thing with technology. It's as soon as we think of something and how to respond to something else comes along.
And they also have that option of having a parenting app, which we really encourage if they're going out into the community and doing exchanges, is we recommend that they ask their attorney or the guardian ad litem, like, what about a parenting app? So there's different parenting apps out there where you can't delete text messages. You can share your calendar. You can do video calls through it. You can do phone calls through it. And it's all recorded. And so we talk about those safety measures as well. So they can't get a hold of their phone number, look it up online, because Catfish has taught us all how to look up a phone number online. We make sure that we're really safety planning with them if they are planning on leaving our program, that we talk with them and make sure that they know that they can always come back to us, that they're always welcome back if they need us, because we're there for a purpose. And they also use us for resources. Like, they may have left the program, but we can still provide like therapy services or outreach services if they're still going through a court program in like municipal court or criminal court or something like that. So we really try to have them use as many programs at Hope House that they can. We're always there as that contact person as well.
And if I believe, the parenting apps are admissible in court, so the information on those apps, the exchanges, are admissible in court. Is that correct? They can be used in court hearings?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a great way to use technology, actually. What would you tell somebody who is contemplating starting or wants more information about the Guardian program through Hope House? What's the process?
They just really need to get in contact with the Guardian program. They can email us. Most of the time, the programs are court ordered, so they can talk to their attorney, or if they're court services that they want supervised visitations, the Guardian program is always an option. We do get a lot of referrals, and a lot of the Guardian ad litems and attorney, like family law attorneys in the Jackson County area, know about the Guardian program. We send out openings if we have any. They really just need to get in contact with us, and we do try to set that realistic expectation that we are a voluntary service. We can't compel, even if it's court ordered. I think that is what really trips a lot of people up. Even if you're court ordered, I can't make you come to the program. We just try to set that realistic expectation, and we communicate with the attorneys. We have really good relationships with a lot of attorneys in Jackson County. Before I worked at the Guardian program, I was a court advocate in the city of Blue Springs, so I have a lot of connections, and before that I was a court clerk for the city of Independence, so I know personally a lot of attorneys in the area, and so they know they can rely on me, or if they have a question they can reach out to me as well.
Is there any cost involved?
We are a completely free program.
Is there anything that you wish we would have brought up or you wanted to talk about that you want to bring up now?
I touched up on it earlier, was the relationships that we've built with not only the children, but also just the court system, as well as the police officers. So the police officers really serve this program faithfully. You know, we really work with them. They're trained on domestic violence. They're trained on things to look for. They understand, whereas someone from the outside coming in and they're like, I don't understand why this is a big deal. Our officers understand why certain things and why we do certain procedures the way that we do them, because they have that experience with domestic violence. The relationships they build with the kids, and the kids look forward to it. So again, you have kids that come in, maybe The only time the contact that they've had with an officer was a negative, and their perspective was negative because they took a parent away. And then here now they see this officer that's walking them to the car, looking out the door, walking to the parking lot, walking them back, and just talking with them, giving them a high five, asking them how their day went. It changes. And so that relationship is so important. And the relationships that we have with our officers that provide that security is just phenomenal. Our court system with our judges and our GALs and our attorneys that we've gotten to know has really supported this program to make it really successful.
I want to thank you for the work that you do every day and the clients and children that you serve. I just so appreciate what you do every single day, and thank you so much for being on the front lines for Hope House.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.